Hello everyone, what's going on? So, Happy and I had a bit of a tech error. You would have thought that we've been doing this for a few years now, we would have figured it out, but alas, no, we haven't. Apparently they've changed the back end of Instagram and the hubby literally was like, what the hell, I don't know what I'm pressing. So he was supposed to join him, but now he's joining me. Come on, baby. Where are ya? What up, people? There you are.
What's up?
Almost gave me a heart attack. Sorry, guys, we're late. I just told everyone that we had a bit of a tech issue.
Yeah, no, I heard you. But the weird thing is, my options are different than your options. So
that's so weird.
That is very weird. But I was like, I'm telling you, it doesn't say what you think it says. But
Here
we are.
Yes, here we are, baby. You want to introduce why we're here, why we're doing a live in different rooms of the house?
Well, we're doing different rooms so that we can make use of this newfangled technology here called Instagram. We're going to be talking about relationships, homie. We're going to be talking about what we've got coming this weekend for people as a part of the St. Valentine's Day holiday. And yeah, that's why we're all gathered here.
Yeah, so guys, Tom and I have, as you probably know by now, we've been together for 20 years. We've been married for 18. And over time, having built companies together, we get asked a lot about our relationship. And we've done so much content. So we're like, you know what, we really want to help. So we started a YouTube channel called Relationship Theory. So if you like hearing feedback and the no bullshit of what it's like, basically to be married for a long period of time and build businesses together, go over and subscribe. We're doing this Instagram live. We've got some special content that we're dropping this weekend, all new. So we wanted to entice people to go over and watch it. So right now, guys, if you want to have either a hangout, a date, a double date, whatever you want to call it, if you want to have that with me and Tom for 30 minutes, this is how you enter. Go over to YouTube, not right now, after this live. Go over to YouTube and subscribe to Relationship Theory. We're then dropping, click that little alarm button. We're going to be dropping new content that we just shot, me and the hubby. And so that's coming out tomorrow. If you comment on it and you like it, that's how you enter to have a hangout, double date, single date, whatever you want to call it, with me and the hubby. All right. But now we're here to answer your guys' questions. So
indeed.
If you've got a question, drop it in. But until then, I want to ask you, Bilyeu, while we're waiting for some questions.
Yes.
What do you think? We're not going to give away the whole episode that we shot, but what do you think is one surprising? So we actually spoke about surprising things in our relationship that we didn't expect in a long-term relationship. So give me one of your surprising things that you didn't see coming that was needed in a 20-year to make a 20-year relationship work.
I don't think before we got together, I ever in a million years would have guessed that you actually have to define what words mean. And the amount of pain and suffering that saved us is really pretty extraordinary. It's one of those things you cannot underestimate how powerful it is to say, okay, the word important, for instance, which is a big thing for us. It means this to me. And so if I say something's important, like to me, everything stops, whatever you're doing. If the marriage is really your number one priority, then I'm using that word to signal you that stop everything else. And I'll never abuse it. I won't use it often. But man, when I say it, do I expect everything to stop? Now, you can imagine if you feel that way about that word and the other person just thinks that it means, oh, this matters to me a little more than blow drying the cat. And they're, one person's using it as like stop the presses and the other person's using it as just like a signifier of, it's mildly more important. It causes more problems than you can imagine. And when you hear from the outside couples having a disagreement, oftentimes you can put your finger on what the problem is, but they can't. And so it's really interesting once you understand that just defining words differently causes like this complete disconnect between the people, you can really, really save a lot of heartache. And so that's been wildly advantageous in our lives.
Yeah, and I love that. Like you even said it, but we write words out and then write the definition, like a dictionary, so that there's no confusion of how you actually respond to it. So for instance, guys, we didn't just say the word important means you have to drop everything. We literally said, okay, what does drop everything mean? And at what stage is like it no longer that important? And we had literally wrote like, if Tom is with the President of the United States and I say, hey, it's important, he's got to say, yo, I got to bounce. If I'm on Oprah, or if I'm interviewing Oprah, I will say, sorry, oh, my husband needs me. That's how we have defined that word. So you guys can imagine, we use that word, I think you even said it, like 2 times a year, 3 times a year at max. And that's the other thing, is making sure the other person doesn't abuse the words that you
Yeah, I
put in.
was just going to say, like, the critical thing to understand here is that you're an asshole if your wife is with Oprah and you're like, hey, this is important to me. Like, you better be falling over yourself to not have those collide. In fact, love of my life, how many times have we collided where you said one thing was important and I said the exact opposite in 20 years?
So
In
this is
20
good.
years.
Once.
One time. Because we don't abuse it. Like, I don't go to saying something's important until I'm like, man, this really matters. And not only does it matter to me, it matters that it matters to me, right? Because there's a lot of things that like matter and they're, sort of important light to me, but I'd never ask you to change the course of your day or whatever for that thing. It's like, cool, this falls within a realm of it matters to me, but it doesn't matter that it matters to me. And I think the secret to our lack of friction is that, like, we give the other person a magic wand that we know they could make our lives a misery if they used it, and then they rarely use it. And that's why it stays magical.
Yeah, we actually do have some questions coming in, and there's one that's really saucy, so I'm going to ask that just after I say this. After I say this one little thing though. So when we had colliding one time, guys, in 20 years, I said it was important and he said it was important. And in that moment, so he was going away for a trip. I really needed him. He had committed to something, and I don't ask him to not travel. And this was the one I was like, I need you to stay home. I was going through a lot at the time. I was like, I need you to stay home. It's important. And he said, it's important I go on this. And it was really like, I think one of the hardest moments of our lives. And in that moment,
be honest. It wasn't hard for me.
Right, because I was the one that was like, you could get to go.
This was a big deal to you, and you deserve all the credit. You were unbelievable. This is one of the moments I will never forget how you handled that, and the amount of integrity that you have, and just how much of my respect you earned in that moment. So I don't want people to think, oh, this was like equally difficult. No. Yay, look at them. It was like you had a chance to prove who you were, and you did it in style.
Well, in that moment, I think because we both broke down why it was important, so we both said it was important, and then we literally just articulated why. He gave me the space for me to say it, and I gave you the space. And ultimately, for you, it became an identity thing. It's like, if I don't do this, it becomes no longer like, this is the identity that you've built your entire life over and that I've supported you for all these years. So now you've built this, you're like, this really is an identity thing. And I was like, wow, it's not that for me. And so because it wasn't that for me, I was like, okay, that makes sense. But I knew how I was, and I know how sadly things can end up being, where you start resenting your partner, right? Okay, yeah, you can go. And then a month later, I'll bring it up. Yeah, but you didn't stay. A year later, I bring it up. And before you know it, it becomes this resentment that builds and builds and builds. And in 8 years, I'm going to throw it at you. And you'll be like, oh my God, are you still on about that? But that's what probably ends up ruining our relationship, right? Because I built this resentment because I'm like, you weren't there for me. You told me I could use this word important, but you weren't there for me. And in that moment, I was like, this is dangerous. Resentment, honestly, I'm so aware that resentment can be the death of your relationship. And so in real time, I literally say, how do I make sure I'm not resentful right now? It's like, at least you have a choice. If it really means that much to you, just tell him not to go. Put the stake in the ground. And then if we have to battle it out, we'll battle it out. But I couldn't, because I knew that it was part of your identity. So that's how I was like, okay, I can actually let go of this. So
word.
That was how I let go of it.
To the person that asked, of course, I still do the Puyallup. Hey? They're the only person in the feed that's going to know what that means.
All right.
All right. So somebody's got a question for us, right?
Yes, so we've got tons of questions. Guys, if you're just joining, Tom and I have released a YouTube channel, Relationship Theory, because Valentine's Day is coming up. We're doing all this special content to really get people over there, promote it. Really want you guys to come and join. Tell us what subjects you like, what things you want to hear more of. Love, love, love. So go over now. We're also offering, if you go over, subscribe, click the alarm. We're releasing an episode tomorrow. If you like it and comment, guys, you then get entered to win 30 minutes to hang out with Tom and I, whether it's have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee, have a double date, whatever you want to do, just chill. Go enter. All right. So questions. All right. This person put, I'm all about honesty and transparency in any relationship, but specifically in an intimate relationship. Are there any situations, though, where lying is necessary?
Well, lying is necessary? No, I don't think lying is ever necessary, but I think lying can be very strategic. And I would be the first person to say that there are social situations where I grease the wheels with lies. I'm going to be honest. If you ask me if you look good in something, I'm going to tell you the God's honest truth no matter what. Because lying to you has long-reaching consequences.
I think that's what they mean in a relationship.
Didn't they say?
I'm all about honesty and transparency. Are there any situations where lying is necessary? I took it from the relationship, so
that's probably a smarter way to answer it. So in a relationship, no, lying is only ever going to hurt you. It's going to damage the relationship. And what I've always said to you is, it makes me feel alone. So even if you never found out, right? Because that's people saying, oh, but what if they never find out? It's like, I don't want to, because it makes me feel alone. It makes me feel isolated. The reason that I tell you the truth is, I mean, it's multifold, but the big one is, I don't want to feel alone. And then I want you, when I tell you something that's counterintuitive, that your insecurities leave you far less likely to believe my sincerity, I need you to know at that moment, I have told you the truth every time it was hard. And so why are you doubting me now? Like, why all of a sudden would I bullshit you? So that has been very powerful in our relationship.
Yeah, and we really do say that, we build our reputation, right? So it's, if you're always kind and one time you seem like you're not being kind, it's like, okay, it's a reputation, of being kind. So this must be the one-off. So I kind of think of things like that. Where you've earned your reputation that you're always honest with me. So when something doesn't feel right, I'm like, is he telling me the truth? I just revert back to, of course, because he's proven it so many times. Right. To the point, guys, where he actually did say, we were on a date, I put on this new shirt, I didn't tell him I've got a new shirt, I was so excited. It was back at Quest, so we hadn't really we weren't going on many dates back then. We were just trying to build the company. And we go out and he hasn't said anything to me. And I'm like, oh, he's busy, he's really preoccupied, never mind. So I was like, he'll say something in a minute. And he doesn't. And I was like, well, you know what? Don't test your partner. Don't test your partner. We've actually agreed to that. And here I am testing him. So I'm like, I'm not going to test him. I'm just going to tell him. So I literally turned to him and I'm like, oh, so hey, babe, what do you think about the shirt? We're at dinner. There's no way of changing the shirt. And he goes, I was like, what the hell is me? I was so offended because to me, it was like this one moment in the day that I was like, I've got this one opportunity to blow his mind. And God bless this man. He literally, you're so charming, babe. He just turns around and he's like, but babe, it was one of those moments where I was like, yeah, you're actually right. He goes, if I'm always honest with you and I say to you, if I don't like a shirt, when we're 90 and I turn around to you and you're waking up and you're all wrinkly and you've got no makeup on, your hair's everywhere. And I'm like, babe, you look beautiful. He's like, I need you to believe me. I need you to believe that I'm actually sincere because I'll never say it if I don't believe it. And in that moment, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. Now, then we have to deal with, well, hang on, now I'm out in a shirt that he hates. And so we kind of went back and I was like, okay,
so
maybe.
Funny. I didn't hate it. I thought it was all right. It's like, yeah, it's all right.
So we went back and I was like, okay, maybe you can tell me before we go out that you don't like the shirt, because then I can decide whether I want to change for myself or not. And then he was like, well, you have to bring it to my attention because I may not notice. So that's how we literally backtrack. And now when I get dressed, I'm like, babe, do you like what I'm wearing? And so we've just resolved the issue. So the fact that he was that honest helped us figure out how to get to the real problem, which is I wanted to look sexy for him and I didn't.
Well, can I now give you something? If I had understood the following back then.
I can't hear you, babe. Is anyone else?
Here's a key. Here's a key insight here's a key insight. I had an alarm go off. Here's a key insight for all the guys. And this is what led to that moment being so confusing for me, is when a woman, like the difference between a man and a man likes to look at something sexually attractive. He's turned on by that thing and the fact that it is attractive. A woman is turned on by being the turn on. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, like now I get it. Now I understand. It's you want to, the whole like sexual excitement for you is knowing that I'm turned on by you. So you've only got one shot before we leave the house to make sure you nail the outfit, so that I'm like, oh man, she looks hot. And once I understood where you were coming from, now it's like, oh my God, I get it. Like this is her whole thing. So that was a breakthrough for me. So for all the gents out there, just remember that. That's such an important distinction.
And then for the women out there, I want to say, for me, it was very important though to also assess if I'm dressing, to know what I'm trying to achieve, in the sense of, just because my husband doesn't like me in something doesn't mean I'm not going to wear it. There are sometimes he's like, I really don't like that shirt, and I'm like, I freaking love this shirt, I feel like a badass, I'm still going to wear it. So knowing in those moments to not just, all right, I don't just let you dictate what I wear or how I look. I'm like, in this moment, I want to look sexy for you, and I didn't. So then it allows me to go, okay, if you don't like it, then I have the ability in that moment to make the change, which I think is super important. And then go, like, am I dressing for him right now, or am I dressing for me? And if I'm dressing for me, then great, I'm going to keep the top on.
Yeah.
So, all right, we've got some more questions, guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, we got a lot of questions coming.
Yeah. All right. How long did it take you before you could trust Tom's word? It all becomes over time. So we've been together for 20 years. We've been married for 18 years, and it's never just a one and done. It's when he says something, what's the result? Oh, okay, he was actually being truthful with me there. Can I trust him more? So I came from a relationship where I couldn't trust my ex. He wasn't a very nice human. And so I definitely came into this relationship being like, you're just saying that. You're just saying that. But time over time, right? It's like I give you a bit of my insecurities, I tell you about it, and then we have a bigger argument. Do you use my insecurity against me, yes or no? It's a great opportunity. I just had an interview with Matthew Hussey where he talks about your weapons and your wounds, and it's like we all have wounds, and the question is, does your partner use it as a weapon? And so that's really how over time we just proved it to each other.
No question.
Anything to add to the next question?
No, I mean, that's so right on the money. It will happen over time. No two ways about that. And from the jump, man, be aggressively yourself. Just say what is true all the time. It's so easy in the beginning, and it gets so hard later if you haven't been doing that from the beginning. I want to give people a phrase. It's called no fear of loss. The only way to be successful at the beginning of a relationship is to have no fear of loss. And I think that a lot of people come in with a fear of loss, and so then they're not themselves, and so on and so forth. Now, I don't know. Maybe everything is updating on your side, but on my side, nothing is updating. No more comments are coming through.
Oh, they are on my end. Don't worry.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
Thank you, baby. Guys, we are answering questions. Drop them in the comments below and we'll get to them. And if you're not subscribed, go over to Relationship Theory to subscribe. All right. Got so many good questions here. How do you maintain the sexual spark with someone you've been with for a long time? We're getting a lot of sexual questions recently, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that.
I mean, look, if it's relationship theory, so it shouldn't be a surprise. So one of the easiest things is just figure out what your partner likes. Like, what is it that is a turn on to them? And then delivering on that is going to be a big part of it. Also, just making sure that you have time for sex when you're not exhausted. And so a big, I think, thing for us is, one, we don't have kids, and I do sometimes feel like we have a very unfair advantage there. So we don't. And I'm curious. I have a question for you, lisabilyeu. So because of me and my work rules, so Monday through Friday, if I'm awake, I'm either working or working out. So we don't have sex during the week. Would you, if I didn't have that rule, would you be like on a
Well,
Tuesday?
so the funny thing is, so we actually spoke about this yesterday on Clubhouse, and I was like, man, I forgot to add this one little thing. So the hubby, you know, works extremely hard. I mean, literally, he gets up to switch the light switch on. He puts his headphones in because he needs that 5 seconds to listen to a book, a podcast, or something. Like, that's how much this man is plugged in from. We don't have dinner together. It's just our life that we've agreed on. But the second
During
part,
the week.
during the week, yes. The thing I didn't mention on Clubhouse, where I'm like, oh man, I wish I had, is that if I was horny during the week, I'd freaking grab you. Like, I would shut your laptop. Right? So it's not that I feel like I am sexually deprived. If I was, and that's super honest. And people listening, this is how we talk to each other. It's like, are you sexually satisfied, babe? Is there anything else I can do more? Like, would you want it during the week? Do you want it more on the weekends? Like, am I dressing enough for you? And then we just have the conversation with no judgment. So saying what you need without making it feel like the other person has to reciprocate. So if you didn't have that rule, babe, and you're like, I want 7 days a week, I'll be like, nope. Like, I don't want to do it when I'm tired. It's not exciting. It just feels like a chore. And when we connect, we fucking connect. And so on the weekend, we have found that to be our magic spot. So it's not even that you put up a rule and I'm just like obeying your rule. It's the fact that I actually agree.
Church. So going back to how you keep that spark, you know, I mean, look, sex it's a biological thing. It's happening largely in the brain. And so being honest with what you like, what you want, communicating that to your partner, building that in, actually doing those things, taking time to make sure that you're not tired, that there's time where you have space to, like, you know, really enjoy it. And that's the key. And then making sure that you're actually doing it. And I would say, man, regardless of age, if you go, I mean, look, of course, there are going to be times where a week will go by, but like, it shouldn't be very often. So making sure that you make time for it. And I've heard a lot of couples, this has never been our problem, but I've heard a lot of couples talk about, you know, our sex life is dying. We went to a therapist and the therapist said, you need to schedule it. And they would have them either, like, there are some couples that have done where they do 365 days for a year just to try, just to see. And they're like, there are times where you have, literally does not sound interesting to me in the slightest. You could not have convinced my 16-year-old self that I would ever say that sentence. But that it's interesting from the perspective of you don't want to do it at first. And then when you get started, the endorphins are going, the dopamine, the serotonin, the oxytocin, the vasopressin, like the neurochemical cocktail that makes you feel bonded. Once you get that, then you have that sense of like, I'm really glad we did this. And so just knowing the neurochemistry of it, you've got to make time for it. You've got to make time for it. There's a phrase called bed death, which I think people should be really terrified of. And that's like a math question. It's like, if you're doing it a lot less than once a week, like if you're not hitting at least twice a month, I will say you are really, really in danger of bed death, and you need to find a way to rectify that. And I'm not saying that as a moral statement. I'm saying that as somebody who understands the neurochemistry.
Right, exactly.
And how you will rapidly slide into being roommates, and trying to claw your way back from that does not sound fun.
And that's the one thing that we, again, just being very honest with each other, saying we don't want a marriage that has bed death. Okay, if that's true, how do you make sure it doesn't happen? Like, we are so total owners of our lives and how we show up every day that we don't change when it comes to the sex side. We are, we're not sure what happened just there. But we absolutely are exactly the same when it comes to our sexual relationship. It's like we don't leave things to chance. We don't just wake up one day and go, oh God, how did we end up here? It's like, no, we talk about it all the freaking time. Are you satisfied? Are you happy? Is there anything I can do better? Like, and I know that you said this about the clothing thing, babe. You know, Tom and I normally go on a trip to New York every Christmas, and we couldn't this year. So I literally went on Amazon and I bought an air hostess outfit, like a sexy air hostess outfit, and made like a little sign and made a video as if he was getting on a plane. And it's like, I dressed up. Now, this is 20 years after a relationship, and we run a business. And when I say I made time for it. I made sure that the last hour before I went to bed and he wasn't looking, I was like doing things. All of these things, I just worked around him because I understand the importance of making an effort for your partner, no matter how many times or how long you've been with them. You've got to keep showing up. You have to.
Well said.
All right, guys. So if you're just joining us, Tom and I have released a YouTube channel called Relationship Theory. If you want to see more content like this, go over and check it out. If you want to hang out with us, or if you want to double date with us, or a coffee or a tea, or whatever you want to call it, go over to the channel right now. Subscribe. We're dropping a new episode tomorrow, especially for Valentine's Day. We're revealing the 3 secret and surprising things that we have found in our 20-year relationship. So go over, click, watch it, make a comment, and then you get entered to win. And how you doing on time, babe?
Technically we're supposed to be done now, but in honor of Valentine's Day and the Relationship Theory channel, why don't we do a speed round? We'll do like 5 or 6 more minutes, and let's get through as many questions as we can. Come on, let's do this.
Speed round, let's do it. All right, guys, I'm just going to read them myself if you want to drop them in, or the other ones, I'm not sure. All right, do you feature books? I wrote Break Up Rehab. We haven't yet, but that is definitely something we're looking into regarding the book suggestions and things like that.
I'd love to read, so.
Yeah, for sure, love that. Okay, no questions on speed round, so I'll come over to here. What's your love language?
Mine is words of affirmation.
And mine is acts of service, but only with Tom. It is the last thing I like anyone else doing except for my husband, which is strange, but hey, very honest. So because I told him that, he now boils the kettle for me every single morning. And every single morning I wake up feeling loved because he boils my kettle.
I also feed the dogs.
Something small. He does
food. Doors.
He does.
Take care of the alarm, the AC.
Well, a lot of that is for both of us, so the kettle's just for me.
Interesting.
All right.
So I'm going to stop doing those things because literally I'm doing them for you, even though you have a very good point that they are mutually beneficial.
That's
but
bullshit.
In those moments,
I'm going to call bullshit. You do not lock the doors for me.
You are out of.
Wait, hang on. I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, I do for your safety.
Of
now,
course.
yes. But also, you do it because if someone did break in, isn't that a fundament? Doesn't that go against your belief of what it is in our dynamic and our relationship to protect me?
I don't understand the difference, and we're losing speed round.
Interesting. Yeah, we're totally losing it. I still want to talk more about this because this is super interesting.
We'll do a whole episode. All you have to do is go subscribe.
If you don't, yeah,
Relationship Theory.
Exactly. If you don't feel sexually satisfied, how do you tell him or her?
Okay, this is speed round, so I'll just say, guys, in your life, I'm begging you, speak plainly, say it in a way calmly, and when they don't understand what you're saying, like, keep asking, have them say it back to you, like, plain talk. You cannot imagine. All the things that sound like us creating content is actually how we speak to each other. Mm-hmm. We are ridiculously just, like, plain and solicitous of, like, what the other person's understanding, what they're taking away. If I'm being unclear, I'll stop there because it's speed round.
I haven't answered, but what I would say is it's always about the unit. So it's not about, hey, I'm not sexually satisfied, and so, hey, you need to come over to my side. It's like, I really want to bond with you. How I bond with you is actually getting intimate. I like feeling your skin. I really feel freaking connected with you. This is my language. What is yours? Is it intimacy? Is it showing affection in public? Is it flowers? Like, finding out those things and be like, and when we're together, babe, you have no idea how fucking on fire I am. Like, just using that language makes that person feel good versus like, hey, come in the sack, I'm not sexually satisfied, right? It's 2 very different approaches. The other one makes that person be like, oh, yes, I'd love you. You're on fire for me, of course. Like, you feel good about it. So, all right. How do you pick free time activities?
Oh, so we have a game that we play called Selfish Desire. And so you have an obligation in selfish desire to, without regard to what the other person wants, because this is where pleasers like Lisa and I end up in a death loop. I don't know. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want? You just say, this is what I want to do. And then the other person says what they want to do. And then you're like, okay, cool. Now we actually know what each of us really wants to do. And maybe like, oh, actually what you're saying doesn't sound so bad. Cool. Yeah, I'm down for that. But once you get the selfish desires out there, then you can find a path forward. But when everybody's like trying to hem and haw and not be honest, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, and just we've now made it part of our weekend. Saturday morning, one of the first things I asked Tom, babe, what's your selfish desire this weekend? And he lists them off. And then I list mine off. And I'm like, okay, you want to do this over here. I want to do this. All right, so let's do that together at the same time. So let's do that at 2 p.m. You're going to go there. I'm going to go here. We're going to come back. I really want to eat dinner together. So we'll come back at this time. And so I literally plan, because I'm just a logistic minded, I literally plan our weekend based on both of our selfish desires. And sometimes you don't get it. And that's just part of being in a relationship. And then, but the next week, it'll be like, well, hang on a minute. Last week, we did your thing. Now this week, we're going to do mine. And it is a freaking partnership. So,
Too true.
Right. Tom, how did you know Lisa was the one?
Well, funny you should ask. So the moment that I realized that I was in love with her anyway, that she was going to be the one, was I came home one day from work and she was on her hands and knees cleaning my couch. And I was like, oh my God, that is love. She cares so much about me that she wants to make sure that, you know, this place is a home. And then of course, flash forward and I realized, no, that's just her. She thought the couch was filthy. She was doing it for her sake. Did not have anything to do with me. But that was actually the moment that I thought, oh my God, I'm going to marry this woman.
I love that story so much. I'm a little, not anymore, but I used to be seriously OCD with cleaning. So literally I'm like, this couch is filthy. Quick, while he's at work, let me get a sponge. And he comes back and he's so touched by it. I didn't have the heart to tell him until later on. For me, I think it was just over time. It was the little things that I didn't expect. It was you opening a car door. Chivalry, guys, is not dead. This man is living proof. I've never had someone open a car door for me. It was the fact that you were very honest about the fact that you write poetry, but yet on the other side of it, you were very honest about how you saw the world or how you think about sex. You know, you were very honest. There was no bashfulness. There was no pretend. And so that really kind of over time built up and built up. And then, I mean, you've just proven that you'd go to the ends of the earth for me. And that was so, I'd never had a guy ever do that and have a guy like I was just completely smitten over, which I still am, like, don't worry. All right, next question. Are you afraid to grow older with no children? Oh, such a good question.
I'm not afraid to grow older with no children, but I have no illusions. On my deathbed, I will regret not having children. And one of the things that I want people to understand is what you want, what you regret, what you fear, all of that changes as your frame of reference changes. So you almost have to break your life into, okay, roughly what will my frame of reference be at this point, at this point, at this point, and then decide, because everything's a trade-off, right? So if I had kids, on my deathbed, I won't regret having kids, but I'll regret not having really fulfilled my life's work. Or worse, I will have...
He's got another alarm going off. Sorry, guys.
My life's work. Exactly. This is the one that, like, there's no way we'll still be going when this alarm goes off. I wouldn't want to fulfill my life's work and ignore the kids. So it's, you know, look at things with your eyes wide open.
Yeah, I do think about it a lot. And there's a big part of me that definitely wants freaking children. And then there's the majority of me that loves what I do on a daily and loves the idea of being able to create things that is going to impact millions of young girls that were, you know, that are 11, 12, 13, that felt like me, that just felt unworthy. I was bullied. I was picked on for my looks. And so when I think about how I want to spend my life, I want to spend my life being able to change millions of young girls' lives. And so I just have relinquished the fact that, not even relinquished, but like I didn't want to do both. I want to freaking go all in. And so I've decided to go all in here. But yeah, that doesn't mean that I never wanted children or don't love children. In fact, all my friends that have daughters, they know that I love Wonder Woman so much and superheroes that literally every time that their daughter's doing something like superhero like, they take a photo and send it to me, and it is my fuel. So I freaking love that. It's just we have just decided not to have them. All right, so how do you deal with someone who
This will have to be the last one.
All right, this is the last one, and this is juicy. Guys, it's going to be the last question, but before that, I just want to say, if you're just joining us, go over to YouTube, I was going to say impact theory. No, relationship theory, relationship theory. Go over to YouTube, relationship theory. We're dropping some new content. And if you subscribe and like the videos and comment, you will be entered into a 30-minute hangout, coffee, double date, whatever you want to call it, with me and the hubs. So, all right, last question. How do you deal with someone who won't commit?
You may have a different answer. For me, that would not be difficult. That is such a clear sign to me that they're just not that into me, that I would have the conversation as plainly as I can, explain how that makes me feel, respect their decision, because of course, like if it doesn't feel right to you, I fully respect that. But this is now taking energy away from me being able to find somebody that is on the same page with me, and I would extricate myself from that relationship. And I say that with the full knowledge of how emotionally brutal that would be, but you can just think that one out. And if you guys aren't on the same page, you're not, on equal footing with that, that's not something that goes away. And so just me personally, I'm too aware of the psychology of that situation. I would have to move on.
Yeah, I think for me, it would depend on what stage we are in our relationship. If it was like the beginning, they just get, it's like, I'm not looking for a commitment, I would just know immediately and then act in accordance. If I was hoping someone would commit and I was with them for a while, I think at some point I would have to be very honest. I mean, like you said, babe, because I know the feeling. I can just imagine that feeling of you desperately want to commit and you're just hanging on and hoping. Like,
God,
to me,
I would never do that.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, the way that we think is take full freaking ownership of your life. So how you show up, what you do every day, you have the control of how you think. And so if I had to almost give over that to someone else, I'm like, I really want to commit, but now it's in that person's hands, I think the dynamic ends up being is super unhealthy. And once that dynamic becomes very unhealthy, I just don't know how you end up getting back to neutral. And the worst thing is the thought or the feeling like you pressured someone into committing. Like, I wouldn't want that. I'd rather leave you and us split than ever wonder whether you're actually committed to this relationship or not.
For sure.
So,
For sure.
All right, guys, go over to YouTube, Relationship Theory, subscribe, comment in tomorrow's video, and you'll be entered into hanging out with Tom and I. Thank you so much for joining us. Have an amazing Valentine's Day. Anything else, babe?
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day. Peace out, guys.